Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. Welcome back to the third installment of today's uploads. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Olny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken too much of your time up already. Let's get on with today's third installment, shall we? In 1984, there was a movie by James Cameron called The Terminator. It was a very thought-provoking movie, probably one of the best movies that year, minus Return of the Jedi. But what it did was it got people's minds going. And unfortunately, I don't think it got people's minds going enough, because the second Silicon Valley and the tech industry started designing modern technology to make our lives easier, we kind of forgot about that movie, The Terminator, didn't we? And Skynet, and what Skynet was capable of. A world with no people, just artificial intelligence. Well, guess what, guys? It's starting to happen. It's been happening. But now it's progressing to a point where we may not be able to stop it. Do they want to stop it? I don't think so. I think the human ignorance and ego that are involved in these programs, like Darpa, they pretty much say, well, we're human. This is artificial intelligence that we created. We'll always be able to control it. Yeah, okay. Check this out. The rise of the robot in the 21st century can be directly related with the rise of drone technologies perfected by the United States military. Drones, or UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, have unexpectedly become popular in the mainstream media, mostly due to conspiracy theories and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul epic 13-hour filibuster before Congress. Senator Paul schooled the Congressional Committee on how drones are currently being used to kill innocent civilians in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and how the use of drones over American skies could potentially be used from everything to unwarranted spying to capturing and killing terrorists and criminals. Drones for spying and warfare can come as small as mosquitoes, and these drones can do everything from record conversations to emitting deadly biochemical weapons. The uses of drones have grown so much that they comprise over 30% of all U.S. military aircraft. But the real dangers of drones are the warning signs they signal for the eventual steps forward, the AI becoming aware. These warnings can be eerily traced with one word: Skynet, a fictional, self-aware, robotic intelligence system that threatened to eradicate humanity in The Terminator. In the franchise storyline, Skynet was an advanced computer system created for the United States military by defense contractor Cyberdyne Systems. Skynet was billed as the global digital defense network and given internet command with cloud technology over all computerized military hardware systems. This robotic Wi-Fi brain system would eventually lead to self-awareness And shortly after being implemented on April 19th, 2011, Skynet launched a nuclear war that killed billions. While we are still decades away from reaching that scenario described in the fictional Terminator series, nuclear destruction and the building blocks that could compose this doom are already being assembled. In fact, as shocking as it sounds, there is even a Skynet telecommunication satellite that is in orbit right now. John Amos, science correspondent for the BBC, writes, "The Skynet system, which includes the radio equipment deployed on ships, vehicles, and in the hands of our troop, is the United Kingdom's single best space project. It is valued at up to $3.6 billion over 20 years and is run by a commercial company, Ostrom, in the Private Finance Initiative and with the Ministry of Defense. UK forces pay an annual service charge for which they are guaranteed bandwidth, with spare capacity then sold to friendly forces. These third-party customers include the NATO allies such as the US. The Ariane left the ground at precisely 18:45 local time and dropped off Skynet 5D 27 minutes later over the east coast of Africa. 5D will now use its own propulsion system to move into the geostationary position at an altitude of 36,000 kilometers. The eventual operating position early next year will be at 53 degrees east. The first 3 spacecraft in the Skynet series were launched in 2007 through 2008. They all match the sophistication of the very latest civilian platforms used to pass TV, phone, and internet traffic, but have been hardened for military use. Classified tech on board will resist, for example, attempts to disable the spacecraft with lasers or to jam their operations with rogue signals. Since its launch, Skynet has been integrated with NATO's military operations and is solely responsible for the destruction caused by NATO's execution drone programs. According to Wikipedia, Skynet is a family of military satellites now operated by Paradigm Secure Communications on behalf of the Ministry of Defense, which provides strategic communication services to the 3 branches of the British Armed Forces and to NATO forces engaged in coalition tasks. During the 2012 NATO summit, politicians and military leaders talked openly for the first time about using and legalizing robots for warfare. While the drone wars have already begun, the era of robot wars is suddenly fast approaching. We have progressed to the point that pilots like Tom Cruise and Top Gun are quickly becoming obsolete. For example, the slick black, arrow-shaped X-47B stealth drone developed by Northrop Grumman can be used as an armed destroyer or surveillance tool. It can fly faster than a B-52, is cheaper to make, and does not require a human pilot. Another defense contractor, BAE Systems, has funded a military robotics project with Professor Henrik Christians at the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta. Their goal is to develop unmanned robotic jeeps capable of exploring and digitally mapping dangerous enemy terrain. Professor Christensen tells the BBC these robots will basically spread out. They'll go through the environment and map out what it looks like so that by the time you have humans entering the building, you have a lot of intelligence about what's happening there. While the emphasis on Christensen's project is mostly information gathering, the arrival of armed robots programmed for death on the battlefield raises profound questions that go beyond the sick reality of creating machines to kill human beings. Peter W. Singer, an expert in warfare and consultant to the Pentagon at the Brooklyn Institution in Washington, D.C., wrote a best-selling book, Wired for War, that expertly describes the future roles robots will inhabit in wartime scenarios. Whether it's mothership swarms or some other concept of organizing for war that we have not yet seen, it is still unclear what doctrines the United States military will ultimately choose to organize its robots around. Whatever doctrine prevails, it is clear that the American military must begin to think about the consequences of the 21st century battlefield, in which it is sending out fewer humans and more robots. With the rise of drones and our understanding of robotics, a recent announcement made by the Obama administration has once again fueled conspiracy theories concerning the arrival of Skynet. Obama has secured $300 million worth of federal funding for an extensive neuroscience project in an effort to map and understand the human brain. This 10-year project has led to speculation that Obama's neuroscientists will pave the way for advances in artificial intelligence, thus laying the groundwork that will eventually allow AI to become aware. European scientists have already created the Robotic, an online brain that describes unfamiliar objects to robots. Inspired by Hayao Miyazaki classic anime fable Castle in the Sky, in the film Robotic is where the robots live. This Robotic brain database serves as the cloud warehouse of knowledge that robots can access via Wi-Fi to ask for help when confronted with unknown situations. This web-based service can also take over the robot's automation and can navigate, do physical labor, or understand human speech in various languages. Using cloud-controlled Wi-Fi technology instead of onboard computation reduces the cost of creating robots and allows robotic thought processes to be downloaded via the web. This cloud-based system of brain computing will only intensify in time as our ways to feed it via improvements in fiber optic wires steadily improves. Fiber optic wires are capable of holding 100 gigabytes per second, but their clumsy and dangling appearance make them a storage annoyance and quite useless on the battlefield or in the air. To solve this problem, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, Darpa, has created a new program intent on perfecting the type of technology needed to run fiber optics through the cloud. In an article posted on December 12, 2012 in the popular technical science blog, Ars Technica, Shane Gallagher writes, "Of course, you can't run a fiber backbone through the air or summon one up at will on the battlefield. That's why the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency has launched a program to create technology, the same sort of bandwidth as fiber optic backbones, 100 gigabytes per second. If successful, the program could mean not just faster data connections on the battlefield, but better broadband for people in remote areas and cheaper expansion of cellular networks." The effort, called the 100 gigabyte per second RF backbone, or 100G in DARPA shorthand, seeks to do more than just overcome the physics that limit current radio-based data connections using the Defense Department's Common Data Link, CDL, standard protocol. The initiative is searching for a solution that will be able to be deployed both to the battlefield and aboard aircraft, and work at distances of over 200 kilometers. The most likely route to create this sort of Skynet is to use the same sort of technology used to collect much of the data in the first place: synthetic aperture antenna technology. There have been a number of efforts to turn the Active Electrical Scanned Array, or AESA, radars of fighter aircraft into dual-purpose systems capable of both acting as radar and as a data link. Raytheon, L3 Communications, and other companies working on previous DARPA-funded projects have demonstrated the creation of airborne mobile ad hoc networks by connecting a data modem to the AESA radar. This turns some of the transmissions array into a multiplex transmitter and establishing network connections of over 4.5 gigabytes per second. DARPA sees the next leap in data throughout coming from improvements in extreme high frequency EHF radio technology using wavelengths measured in millimeters. EHF frequencies such as the 60 gigahertz frequency used at the top end of the WiGig standard are typically only effective for communications at short range and within the line of sight. But DARPA believes that by using techniques in the modulation of signals, including quadrature amplitude modulation, QAM, the millimeter waveband can be used over much greater distances through cloud cover and to achieve even higher throughout. Theoretically, this could also provide a necessary bandwidth needed to house an advanced internet grid strong enough for an artificial intelligence to become aware to the extent of controlling networks of robot killing machines. DARPA has also spent close to $200 million funding the StarNet chip program, which is a study on how to improve semiconductors with nanomaterials, spintronics, and swarm computing techniques. That word, those swarm computing techniques, that's just scary. Anyway, sorry. With over 6 universities conducting experiments in 6 different fields of study, the project aims to create a non-conventional materials and devices that have nanoscale structures and quantum-level properties. The research looks at atomic scale engineered materials and structures of multifunction oxides, metals, dielectrics, and semiconductors as they are used in analog, logic, and memory devices. The most significant research is being carried out at the Terra Swarm Research Center at the University of California, Berkeley. Terra Swarm is looking at a sensor and command control system on a city scale that can be deployed by using massive disruption, swarm computing, and communication technology. This project looks at a swarm sensor, big data processing, cloud computing, to work on a smarter city, to use the IBM logo. This blatant attempt at creating Skynet is now out in the open and accelerating with incredible speed. A recent announcement by legendary futurist Ray Kurzweil sent shockwaves throughout the Google is Skynet conspiracy forums when Kurzweil told the media that he is working with Google to create the next generation of AI networks. Kurzweil, a certifiable genius who reinvented the musical synthesizer and created machines that helped the blind read, among other inventions, is currently building a computer module that will be able to mimic the human brain. Oh my God. He claims that along with AI, eventually becoming self-aware, that also our personal computing laptops will shrink to the size of a blood cell and will be over 1 billion times stronger. By the time Google wakes up, it will have every known fact and record of every human that has ever lived. Google already has a self-taught virtual brain program already in place. Using pattern recognition and sound recognition, the neural network could be getting closer to understanding context and information surrounding a central target, like scanning the background of an image to learn where the photo was taken by using existing similar images and geotagging data. Of course, Google is quick to point out that this is really still just a first step towards a true artificial intelligence. Although Google's neural network technology is smaller than a human brain, can beat humans at certain tasks, and can teach itself and get more efficient at learning, it still can't reason, which is essential for intelligence. So the neural network can find specific visual data faster than humans can, and it can match shapes and patterns and ultimately do jobs that would be incredibly tedious and boring for humans. But it can't draw from the outside world and reason out the why or how of a thing. Why and how are the most powerful of all questions, and both the asking and drive to answer those questions are the true mark of intelligence. Google's brain cannot do that yet. But the question still stands. When the day does come that Google or some other company creates a true artificial intelligence, will you be there with pitchforks and torches, or with an offering of peace to our new Cylon overlord? With the realization that drone and robotic technology might reach self-aware AI levels faster than anyone dares to admit, the Human Rights Watch and Harvard Law School International Human Rights Clinic jointly released a mind-blowing 50-page report entitled Losing Humanity: The Case Against Killer Robots, November 19, 2012. The report makes clear that banning killer robots before it's too late is crucial to the survival of the human race. The report cites the out-of-control drone programs and Darpa's zeal for building fully autonomous weapons. This legitimate threat was also addressed by award-winning former intelligence officer, Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Pryor, in an essay titled The Rise of the Machines, published by the United States Army Combined Arms Center. Pryor writes, "It seems heartbreakingly obvious that future generations will someday look back upon the last decade as the start of the rise of the machines, robots so advanced that they make today's predators and reapers look positively impotent and antique. These killer robots, though, will share one thing in common with their primitive ancestors. With remorseless process, they will stalk and kill any human deemed a legitimate target by their controllers and programmers." Dr. Roman Yemplowski, a computer scientist at the University of Louisville, Kentucky, has been one of the leading proponents of creating fail-safe mechanics to prevent AI from getting out of hand. He proposed new ideas outlining ways to contain and restrict robotic intelligence. His theories were released in a March issue of the Journal of Conscious Studies. He envisions trapping Skynet inside a cloaked virtual machine, already running inside a computer's operating system without the aid of internet access. Yemplowski worries that without laws implementing how advanced AI systems can grow to, there is no stopping the robots that overriding human-given commands simply by developing an unforeseen rise of intelligence and self-awareness. Yemplowski claims that a clever breed of artificial intelligent robots would be able to do that, discover new attack pathways, launch sophisticated social engineering attacks, and reuse existing hardware components in unforeseen ways. Such software is not limited to infecting computers and networks, but it can also attack human psyche, bribe, blackmail, brainwash those who come in contact with it. The catch-22 is that until we have fully developed super intelligent AI, we cannot fully test our ideas, but in order to safely develop such AI, we need to have a working security measure. Our best bet is to use confinement measures against subhuman AI systems and to update them as needed with increasing capacities of AI. Despite Jampolsky's concerns and safeguard ideas, most experts believe that it would be impossible to keep an AI locked in a bottle like a genie forever. There are just too many behind-the-scene interest groups, defense contractors, and various militaries around the globe spending ridiculous amounts of money, willing to rush face-first into a rabbit hole of robotics. If that rabbit hole ends up spitting out AIs that have reached levels beyond human scientific understanding and starts to deploy powers such as psychic abilities, telepathy, and psychokinesis, then Pandora's box will take on a whole new meaning. Jampolsky warns, if such software manages to self-improve to levels significant beyond human-level intelligence, the type of damage it can do is truly beyond our ability to predict or fully comprehend. Hugh Price, Bertrand Russell, professor of philosophy, at Cambridge, Martin Rees, an emeritus professor of cosmology and aerophysics at Cambridge, and Jan Tallinn, the co-founder of Skype, all share Dr. Jampolsky's views and have co-funded a project together with robotic experts at the University of Cambridge, where they are currently conducting research into extinction-level risk scenarios that humanity faces with the rise of artificial intelligence. With the unstoppable advancements of AI and Skynet plowing full speed ahead, the ability for robots to become self-aware and possibly taking over the planet has become a reality. More safeguards are needed, along with openly televised debates in public forums to help raise awareness on this crucial topic. If not, this reckless drive to mend man with machine at an overboard pace without taking notes of consequence might ultimately put us on the road to ruin. Bill Joy, computer scientist and co-founder of Sun Microsystems, wrote a shocking article called "Why the Future Doesn't Need Us," detailing the fall of humanity and the rise of robots. Now, more than 13 years old, his point is valid and frightening than ever before, especially after news leaked that Darpa is setting out to make computers that can teach themselves how to think. That, my friends, is absolutely terrifying. I hate robots. I have for a very long time. I remember when I saw those videos of Boston Scientific robots, and they freaked me out. Now that I think about it, I think Google bought Boston Scientific, if I'm not mistaken. Well, maybe here's one thing. Maybe with the destruction of humanity by the robots, maybe the robots will be able to finally wipe out the Dogman. Wouldn't that be a kick? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Please, everyone, practice kindness. May the Great Spirit watch over us all. May He guide us down that path that we call life. Until tomorrow, my friends. Until tomorrow.